Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of the Second String, your first, your only stop for college football and other football tangential news on the campus of UNL. I'm your host, Nate Muehlbach, and joining with me is my co-host, Alex, always fresh, never frozen Fernando. How you doing, Alex?
What can I say? I'm fresh.
As always.
Just ready to talk some football. How about you, Nate?
I don't know. I am very ready to talk some football. Disappointing week. All my teams lost. Nebraska lost. The Chargers lost. My fantasy football team lost. Don't bring it up.
Yeah, they did. They got their butts kicked by me.
Okay. Well, we're not going to bore you with stats on fantasy football, but we got a good slate for you. We got, as always, our games from next week's. We got, not our games from next week, though we do have that coming in another section. We have our games from last week. Then we'll recap the Husker. Then we'll talk about the Huskers' next game. Then we'll talk about some national games from next week. And then maybe at the end, if we've got a little time, we'll discuss a little bit about the NFL season, just to kind of spitball.
Yeah, NFL season kicking off this past weekend as well, so we'll definitely try to mix that into our college football segment here.
Yeah, so let's get started with our national games from last week. Now, the first one we want to talk about, probably the big one, probably the one you guys are all excited to talk about. This is the number 5 Oklahoma Sooners against the former number 2 Ohio State Buckeyes.
Yeah, they took a big plummet in the rankings after Oklahoma dismantled them here in Columbus. And, I mean, the only statement from the game is Mayfield just planting that flag in the center row at the end of the game.
I love the statement. I love it. I don't even like either of those teams that much. I'm not invested in them, but I just dig it so much. Please, Baker Mayfield, do that to every team you beat except the Oklahoma State Pokes, because you're not going to beat them.
Oh my gosh, don't start with your poke.
Okay, all right. Well, 31-16 was the final score. Much closer than it indicated. The score was much closer than what the game actually indicated. Oklahoma, really kicked the snot out of the Buckeyes. Baker Mayfield, 27 for 35 for 386 yards, 3 touchdowns. Flowers, for the receiver for Oklahoma, 98 yards, 1 touchdown. Alex, what was your biggest takeaway from this game?
My biggest takeaway was JT Barrett. He did not look good.
Yeah, I thought you would say that, and I hoped you would too. I was not impressed with him at all. 19 for 35, 183 yards, 1 interception, no touchdowns. I know he's breaking in a new crop of receivers, but for a 4-year starter, he was injured all that 1 year and couldn't really play that much. But
I personally have never been that big a fan of JT Barrett. I know he's a great athlete. I've seen him make some great plays, but overall, through the course of his career, he hasn't been an elite quarterback in my eyes. And I think this game against Oklahoma really proved that. Oklahoma's putting in a lot of new starters on defense from a year ago. New system under Lincoln Riley as head coach. You just can't be sure on how stellar their defense is going to be this early in the season. And they really took it to Barrett and the Ohio State Buckeyes this past weekend.
Yeah, and I think it's very interesting that you say that about Barrett. And it's something that I think a lot more people have been picking up steam with. A lot of national news has been really championing this narrative that JT Barrett's not really a great quarterback. Is something I agree with. Now, looking at his career stats, they kind of show the answer to that. I mean, outside of 2015, where he was hurt for a decent chunk of it, 2016, only 2,500 yards. 24 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. It's a good season, don't get me wrong, but it's not a spectacular season. And for a 4-year starter that, when his freshman year it reminds me of Taylor Martinez a lot, where his freshman year he came in, he was a sensation. Everybody was like, wow, this guy, he is the future. He is going to break records. He's going to win national championships. And outside of the 1 year where he was kind of hurt and he kind of won them a national championship, he just really hasn't done that for the Buckeyes.
Yeah, like you said, his career stats, last year only throwing 61.5% completion rating, not a whole lot of yards. His first year, freshman year, when he took over, he only played in a few games because of Braxton Miller and Cardale Jones, but 64%, not great, not amazing, but, decent enough. But it's gone progressively down the last couple of years. He's only at 55% so far this year.
And I think he'll get better. Like I said, they're breaking in a ton of new people. But I think they have Ohio State's going to rebound. It's not the end for the Buckeyes. And I'll give you 2 reasons why. J.K. Dobbins, Mike Weber. That is one of the most talented backfields in college football you will see this entire season. J.K. Dobbins had around 70 yards, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, 72 with the TD.
Yep, he looked impressive. He looked impressive in the first game. Mike Weber's still rehabbing that injury, but he should be back this season. And when they get that two-headed monster in there, just look out. The Buckeyes needed this. Look at the 2014 team lost that silly game against Virginia Tech, and they just regrouped. Urban Meyer got the team back together and was like, listen, we're not going to play like that the rest of the season, and they didn't, and I wouldn't be shocked if the Buckeyes did the same thing this year.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, referring to that Virginia Tech loss, that was week 2. I remember that year everybody counted the Big Ten out after week 2 because almost every other Big Ten team lost or didn't look very impressive in their wins. Very similar to this year, a little bit more of Big Ten teams won this past weekend, but still, not a lot of them looked that impressive. So we could maybe see some 2014-esque Big Ten teams rolling through.
Maybe. Though, on the other hand, for Ohio State, they do have the worst FBS pass defense currently through 2 games. You want to know who's the second worst?
I'm going to guess Nebraska.
It's Nebraska. You know how much they beat us by?
Probably not much.
Like 16 yards.
Okay, yeah. Well, that totaled into Baker Mayfield's passing yards, and he was phenomenal. Only missed a total 8 passes, 386 yards, 3 TDs. He's going to be a player to watch.
Heisman.
Yeah, 2-year Heisman finalist. He could go 3, honestly.
I wouldn't be shocked if he went 3. Spread it around. He has a lot of new weapons. Trey Sermon, 62 yards on the game. Not a breakout running star, but I'm pretty sure for the Sooners, they got just kind of a cabal of running backs out there trying to represent the Pirine and Mixon rushing that they lost last year.
Yeah, like you said, replacing a lot of the starters from a year ago, but Oklahoma looks very dangerous this season. I'm honestly surprised by them. I thought they'd have to rebound quite a bit, losing big game Bobby over the offseason, him stepping down. Clearly have not lost stride with Lincoln Riley taking over as head coach.
And that's, you got to give credit when you have an all-American quarterback like Baker Mayfield. It makes those coaching transitions real easy. Now, Oklahoma and Ohio State, we haven't seen the last of them, but we're going to move on to our next game. This is probably the second best game of the season. I'm sorry. And all this football Sunday has got me all riled up. But this is the Auburn Tigers versus the Clemson Tigers, the Tiger Bowl. Number 3 Clemson took home a 14-6 victory, a tight one over Auburn. What are you thinking, Alex?
Yeah, really not a lot of offense. Very defensive game, obviously, as the score shows. No points at all in the fourth quarter. Very tight. Clemson comes away with the victory. I think the difference was Kelly Bryant. He really beat Auburn on the ground. He had 19 carries, 59 yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. Really made the difference because Auburn really had a tough time containing him.
Yeah, and Kelly Bryant, he looked like he was done. Did you see the giant hit Auburn had on him? I saw that, and I was like, that's a shoulder, that's an arm. Like, he's finished. But he came back, must have just had a real big stinger, and came back and finished him. He looks like he's delivering some strong senior leadership. Now, what do you think this game says more? Do you think this game says more about the Clemson defense or the Auburn offense?
That's tough to say. Jarrett Stidham did not look good. Only 13 and 24, 79 total passing yards, and then a total of 38 team rushing yards on the ground for Auburn because Stidham was sacked so much. I think that honestly tells more about the Clemson defense, in my opinion. They were great a year ago. So many stars left, but they have a lot of returning talent and a lot of young guys stepping in.
Yeah, this video is auto-playing on my computer as I watch, and it was showing every Clemson sack in order, all 11 of them, and that's ridiculous. Who gets 11 sacks in a game?
That was beyond comprehensible. I mean, 11 sacks, 14 total tackles for loss. They were living in Auburn's backfield the entire game.
You know, and I think that says a lot because Gus Malzahn, it's his fourth year at Auburn. And he was when he was coming in, he was supposed to be an offensive guru, and he showed it a little bit when they went to the national championship in his first year, or is it his second year? I'm not sure on my Gus Malzahn knowledge.
Well, he's been there a while.
Yes, but he was kind of hired in to be an offensive guru.
He's been there since 2012.
2012, so this will be his 5th year. And he was brought in to be an offensive guru after the Gene Chizik hire really fizzled out. No surprise there. But
yeah.
He was brought in to reinvigorate the offense, but these last couple of years, they can't score. Why do you think that is?
Part of it's got to be quarterback play. They haven't been recruiting the quarterback position very well, in my opinion. They had Cam Newton, obviously, big star, move on to the NFL, Super Bowl appearances, stuff like that. But you're right. Over the last couple seasons, Auburn has really struggled. Last year alone, they were 49th in the nation in scoring offense. For a team that is usually up towards the top or wants to be up towards the top with a Gus Malzahn-like system, that's not going to cut it.
It just isn't. And the Auburn, they're going to be okay. They're a solid team. They're going to rebound. They're easily, in my opinion, still the second best team in the SEC.
I still got LSU taking that crown.
We'll see. We'll see when they get to play. So
this is true. Another Tiger Bowl coming up.
Yes, another Tiger Bowl. There's too many tigers. Why? Have some more creative mascots, Clemson. You just won the national title. Just make yourself the Clemson titles. Wow, that was bad.
Oh my gosh, we're not starting these again, Nate.
No, I'm done. I'm sorry. Don't just disregard me. I'm gonna mute myself for a second. Alex, take over.
All right. Well, moving on from the Auburn-Clemson game, let's look at the USC and Stanford Cardinal game. I was a little bit shocked by this one. I thought Stanford would come in, pull another big upset. I thought the rushing game, which still did pretty well against the Trojans, would kind of take over, but Sam Darnold, stellar. I know he's your boy, Nate, so I'll let you go off for a little bit.
Oh, Sam Darnold, he is my boy. I love myself some Darnold. He's going to be the number one pick in the draft this next year for a good reason. He 21 for 26, 316 yards. He had 2 interceptions, but 4 touchdowns. Dude is legit. He has a lot of weapons. Burnett had 121 yards, 2 touchdowns. It was just a beating, and I thought, I was with you. I thought the Stanford Cardinals were going to come in and just really beat down Bryce Love, who I am also super impressed by. I mean, he did get his yards, but the USC just kept rolling.
Yeah, USC's offense was nearly impossible to stop. They had 316 passing yards, 307 rushing yards, so over 600 total yards. Absolutely demolishing that Stanford defense, coming away with 42 points. And Stanford, I don't think, just couldn't keep up. They just didn't have the offensive firepower.
Yeah, and Keller Chris, it's just not a quarterback that's going to get it done. You think of Stanford, you think of some solid QB play. You know, Andrew Luck into Burns.
Hogan.
Yeah, Hogan, Burns. They just had some really solid quarterback play, and now it seems they just don't have that anymore. Chris only 15 for 28 for 172 yards, 2 touchdowns, so he didn't have a terrible day.
Yeah, he didn't throw any picks, which is what you want. I mean,
but he's not. Nobody looks at Keller Chris and is like, "Yep, this guy, we got a game plan for him. He's gonna really beat us." They just don't.
Yeah, he's a solid quarterback. I'm gonna put this loss a little bit more on the Cardinal defense. Again, over 600 yards. That's unheard of. You can't be giving up. And 2 of USC's running backs were over 100. 119 for Stephen Carr, and then Ronald Jones 116. That's way too many rush yards to give up to 2 players.
Ronald Jones is also a legit player, but again, you cannot give 100 yards up to 2 players. You're going to lose that game 10 times out of 10, as we'll find out a little bit later. Now let's move on to our next game. Here is Georgia versus Notre Dame.
The Dogs.
The Red Stadium up in South Bend. So many Georgia fans. Not as many as the Nebraska fans back in 2000, but there were a lot of them. Georgia took it 20-19. Last-second field goal. Snuck by those Fighting Irish. Alex?
Well, if you watch Brian Kelly's press conference after the game, it was a little bit funny. I mean, he was not happy at all.
Brian Kelly not happy?
I know, shocker, right? He was really adamant just about how his team still played well, and the reporters kept asking him a lot of questions on how did this happen, or why did this happen in the game? Why'd you let this slip by? And he was not having it. So I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of adjustments over these next couple weeks with Irish, but still, you can't take anything away from Georgia. Fighting till the end. Jake Fromm looked pretty good in his first start. Not amazing. 141 yards, 1 TD, 1 pick, but held the offense together against a tough Irish defense.
Yes. If you're Jake Fromm, you just want to hold the fort. Jacob Eason was down. Fromm apparently pushed him in spring camp, almost won the starting job, apparently. But when you're Jake Fromm and you're making your first game in a hostile or maybe it should be hostile, but there are so many Georgia fans that it was hard to tell.
That was a very, very impressive showing by the Georgia Bulldog fans.
Indeed. But when you're Jake Fromm, you say, okay, I got to go in, I got to throw the ball, I got to make the easy passes, and I got to get my team out of here, and I got to manage the game and do what I can. And that is what he did, and he did that extremely well. Yeah. I mean, Georgia has a couple of good ground threats. Nick Chubb,
luckily
Sonny Michel.
has. Yeah, for sure. Luckily, he has Michel and Chubb to lean on. Both of them had 13 carries, 73 yards and 63 yards for Michel and Chubb, respectively. Both averaging close to 5 yards or over 5 yards a carry. That's tough to stop if you're Notre Dame.
Yeah, if you're Notre Dame, it's tough. If you're Brian Kelly, are you looking at yourself on the hot seat? Is he on the hot seat, Alex?
I can't buy that. I think he's been there too long. He's made appearances on the national stage. He's been to a national title game. He has teams. He has recruits coming in. I think it's just developing the experience and then a little bit of that team chemistry. They're struggling with the new running back, Josh Adams, coming in. They've had a lot of injuries over the past couple of years. New quarterback in the system now. All their quarterbacks kind of left. So I think it could be, maybe down the road. We'll see how this season goes. I don't like calling it this early. But we'll switch over now. We looked at Georgia, Notre Dame. I want to talk about Penn State and Pittsburgh. Classic rivalry game starting back up. Pitt Panthers took it from the Nittany Lions last year, kind of made a little bit of an uproar. Started Penn State's big winning streak after that. The Nittany Lions, they just kind of stomped them. And I don't know if you saw Franklin's press conference, but
I did not.
His quote, beating Pitt is like beating Akron to them.
That's got to sting if you're a Panther fan. Pitt's bad. There's not much to say about it. They're a terrible team, a thoroughly not good football program.
Max Brown, USC transfer at quarterback, only 138 yards, 2 picks. That's not going to help you at all.
He's bad. Did you know he started over the Darnold last year?
He did start over the Darnold.
Good old Clay Helton almost got fired because of that mishap. But yeah, Max Darnold, not Max Darnold.
Max Brown.
Wow. Max Brown, not impressive. Their offense, not impressive. Their defense, not impressive. For Penn State, what can you say? Trace McSorley looked really good. He actually impressed me more than Saquon Barkley did. You know Saquon Barkley. Barkley's going to get his yards. He's going to rush for close to 100 or over 100, get a touchdown or two, going to make the defense respect him all game long. And that's just what you expect. But Trace McSorley, a lot of people before the season were wondering, how good is this kid? How far can this quarterback take the Nittany Lions? And from all indications, I think he can. He looks more improved. He looks a little more accurate than he has in the past. And if he keeps on this upward trajectory, I think Penn State could really be in the hunt for a national title this year.
Oh, definitely. I think Penn State is a top 4 team right now. One of my biggest teams to watch. And like you said, Saquon Barkley, fantastic running back, easily a Heisman candidate. He came away with 88 rushing yards and a touchdown, as well as 45 receiving yards and a touchdown. But yeah, you're right. McSorley really settled down with the offense now. He ran it well last year. He's running it well this year. Only thrown a couple picks thus far this season. Only been sacked once. I think that's been a huge help as their offensive line is protecting him.
Oh, you think about the Christian Hackenberg years. I know that was in the mix of all the sanctions, but the infamous Temple sacking Christian Hackenberg with 2 rushers is one of those videos that'll stick with you forever. So James Franklin has really got the Nittany Lions back on track and looking to win a championship.
Yeah, really good program coming out of Happy Valley. I'd be careful watching them this season.
Yes, so we'll transition to our next game. And this is the good game of the week, interesting game, the one that I think both of us have a lot to talk about. Yes, this is the Husker recap, game of the week, Nebraska at Oregon.
All right, well, I'm going to say it. I'm glad we had a wedding to distract us for most of that game.
Yes, me and Alex were both at the same wedding. One of our friends got married, and everybody's like, oh, weddings on football season? That's scandalous. But, man, we were sure glad we had one today.
Yeah, especially for that first half. Absolutely atrocious by the Husker defense. Giving up over 400 yards, 42 points in the first half. Obviously, a lot of adjustments were made. We'll talk a little bit about that for the second half, but man, that was a rough game to be watching.
Yep, Oregon took it 42-35. over the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Now, we did this last week. We're going to continue doing it over the season. I think it's a lot better and boils down our thoughts a lot more concisely than just kind of vomiting Husker opinions at you for 40 minutes, which we would definitely do unchecked. If we didn't control ourselves, we would definitely do it.
Yeah, we could lose the reins on that quickly.
So we've turned this into a little bit of a game or a little bit of a talking point. We go with what impressed us, what we expected, and what needs work. Now, first is go of what impressed us. That can be anything, any position, any player, any moment during the game. So, Alex, what impressed you?
The second half. Obviously, a great comeback. A lot of adjustments made on defense, holding Oregon to only a little over 100 yards and 0 points. Very good. When you give up 42 in one half and 0 in another, it's still very difficult to win the game, obviously. But obviously, some adjustments were made. I think people can put down their pitchforks and torches at Diaco for a little bit and just see what he does for the rest of the season. Linebacker play was a lot better the second half. Coverage is a little bit better. I thought I could tell that there were some adjustments going back and watching the film after I recorded the game. Luke Gifford and Chris Webber, much better in the second half, sticking on the outside with the contain. Mick Stolenberg up front and the D-line plugged up the running a little bit better in the second half. Again, just that improvement in the second half surprised me and helped me give us some hope for the rest of the season.
Do you think that it was more of a defensive improvement, or do you think Oregon just went conservative on offense? Because I think there were a lot of critics that said Diaco's defense, he didn't improve. Oregon just kind of clammed up and just handed it off to Royce Freeman 20 times.
I think Oregon probably shut down a little bit rather than going deep on us every time. But Royce Freeman's still easily one of the best backs in the nation. I don't think handing it to him 20 times is a bad idea in any case.
It's certainly hard to stop. And I read a stat today that I think you'll enjoy. Nebraska.
What's that?
I don't know who exactly did it. I can't quite pick it up. But Nebraska, as a first-half team, is ranked 116th in the nation.
Oh, God.
You want to know what our second-half ranking is?
Hopefully top 20.
That's 7. We're the seventh best.
Wow. All right,
in the nation
then.
In the second half.
Hey, fourth quarter, that's where it counts.
We were a fourth-quarter team last year, too.
And the year before. Just couldn't quite close it out the year before.
And in some of the bowl years. I remember 2012, we had a ton of comebacks.
Yep.
So Nebraska's in these recent years has always been a comeback sort of team, really giving it on in the second half.
Well, let's hope we start completing some of these comebacks. But, Nate, what surprised you the most in this Nebraska-Oregon matchup?
I'm going to go with a specific player here, and I think he definitely earned it. I'm going to go with Matt Farniok at the
definitely.
right tackle.
Good choice.
David Neville was injured. I forgot exactly what he's out with.
He's got a boot on his ankle, so something with the foot.
Yeah, that happened. I think that happened to him last year, too. And Farniok stepped in there. It's his first game. The tackle from South Dakota.
South Dakota rep.
Yeah, Alex is from South Dakota. Not as good as Matt Farniok, but he can still complete a pass or two in football.
Yeah, okay.
But Matt Farniok comes in for Neville. Looks really impressive. I was impressed with his pass defense. I was impressed with his run defense. I know Oregon doesn't have an amazing front seven, but Farniok came in there and just made him look like, he basically came in and said, I want to be the starter, and I think he's definitely earned it so far.
Yeah, I was really excited to see Farniok out there. I ran into a couple times on campus, know him pretty well, and I know he was excited to get that start. Definitely going to push Neville for some playing time. I thought Farniok looked really good out there.
He did, and I told this to you before the show, and on Sunday when we talked that even if, or I suppose Saturday night because we were at that reception, but even when Neville comes back, I think they need to leave Farniok in there. He's younger. I think he has more upside. I hate bagging on a guy like David Neville because he's had a lot of injury problems over his year at Nebraska, but he's just soft and he doesn't block very well.
Yeah, I think Farniok has a lot better speed too, coming off out of his stance, making sure that edge is sealed off. All tackles need work. I mean, that's a tough position to play in football.
As somebody who played offensive line, I played guard, not anything tackle. Though in 8-man football, they're kind of the same position. But, I mean, you pass block. In 8-man football, you pass block like a tackle, but you run block as a guard. So it
seems fair.
So it's very interesting. We're not here to talk about my contributions to the game of football, which are minimal. Yeah, so Matt Farniok, I think he should have the job. I think he should, if he continues to play at this level of play, should get the starting position all season. So,
yeah, well, Neville's doubtful for this week, so he'll get another chance to prove himself against a little bit weaker opponents, so hopefully we can see a little bit more out of him.
Hopefully. So we're going to move on to our next category. This is as expected. This is a neutral category. Your as expected can be something good. It can be something bad. We just sort of leave it up to whatever we want to talk about. So, Alex, what in this Husker game went as expected?
Some people might disagree with me. Some people might just say he was flat out bad. But as expected, Tanner Lee, yet again. Like we said last week, we thought he was good, not great, about what we wanted to see from him. Obviously not what we wanted to see this week against Oregon, but I thought it was about accurate for what he brought to the table. He had only 252 yards, not terrible. Three touchdowns, the 4 really bad interceptions. 1.5 of them weren't his fault. I don't think he should have been throwing the direction on that last one, but he did get his arm tipped, so I won't give him full credit. But those 2 and the second and third interceptions right to the defense. He probably had a couple others to be picked, and only 46.3 completion rating over the game. That's not going to cut it. Getting close to Tommy Armstrong passing numbers.
That's what I heard on social media. It was Tanner Lee's throw, and that's Tommy Armstrong numbers. But Tommy Armstrong could bail you out with his legs. Now, last week I had Tanner Lee as expected, and I said he was as expected. He was good. Now, why exactly did you put him here as expected instead of into the needs improvement category?
Well, again, I just think everybody was really hyped on him coming off of the off season, coming out of the summer and fall camp. They're like, wow. The junior quarterback, I mean, there were so many people I heard talking around saying he's going to go to the NFL after this junior year. There's no way. You'd have to have a Heisman caliber season, and he's clearly not going to be near that unless he shows drastic improvement over the next couple of days and next couple of weeks. But I think, again, just settling down with a new offense, very, very tough environment on the road at Autzen Stadium, one of the hardest stadiums to play in the country, one of the loudest, one of the most fearsome and dynamic teams up in the Pacific Northwest. It's a tough road game for a starter who's at a big school now. He's never played in a Power 5 non-conference game when he was at Tulane, so he doesn't know the kind of statue and the overall power that Oregon carries with that kind of stadium and with that kind of road test. So again, about what I expected. I was hoping for a little bit better. Obviously the 4 picks, I would have cut that in half, and I'll cut that in half a little bit because the first one was off Stanley Morgan's head and the other one was tipped, but got to be a little bit better with the game management, and he doesn't need to go out of his way to try to make all the plays. He's got weapons. He can use those. He tried to press a little bit too much on the throws, I think.
I do agree with that. He was not super impressive throwing the football. He threw over his receivers. He rifled his passes a little too much.
Yeah, missed a lot of deep balls.
And so it's something that needs improvement. Now, for me, what I expected was more of a concept than a player. It was what happened when Trey Bryant went down.
Oh, gosh.
Our offensive output. Not great, as I want to say. I don't really have the drive recaps, but after Trey Bryant went down, I was in the Bob Devaney Sports Center for the volleyball game, and I was watching on one of the televisions before the volleyball game starts, and I was like, wow, like, we're done. We're finished. Like, we're not winning this game without Trey Bryant. And like I said, once Trey Bryant went down, Tanner tried to force some throws because he had, like, I like Will Bond. Zigbo is a ghost.
Yeah, I don't know.
He's haunting this team.
I don't know what happened to him or where he's at, but we'll see in weeks to come, maybe.
And I like Will Bond. I like the ghost of a Zigbo, but they're not. They're not Trey Bryant. Trey Bryant, who's fantastic, rushed 20 carries, 170 yards, 7 yards, not 7D. That would be amazing.
Still, I mean, he's just under 300 for the season. Got that knee injury, so yeah, I think that's a very good thing to just kind of be expectant of. A lot of offensive production drops when he goes out.
I mean, you lose so much when you lose and I think it's safe to call Trey Bryant the best player on our offense, like by far. I know you like some of the receivers. You're a big fan of the receiving group we have, but in my opinion, Trey Bryant is by far the best player on our offense. And when he went down, Oregon just kind of said, yep, all right, Tanner Lee, let's beat us with your arm now because we don't respect Mikhail Wilbon. We don't respect I don't know, since Ozigbo's ghost isn't in there.
Jalen Bradley, but he hasn't seen the field yet.
He was
so.
injured last week, so
Okay.
it was like Austin. Well, Wilbon got all the carries, and it was only like 4 or 5 or 6 or so carries regardless, since we were down always. But, they're not worried about Austin Rose. They're not worried about trying to think.
Yeah, we got to dig deep on this running back roster if we're going to do that. But I think you're right. Taking Trey Bryant out of the equation really limits our offense because you're right. The teams aren't going to respect our other running backs as much. Trey Bryant's clearly our feature number 1 back. Hopefully he can come back healthy. I think that's going to be a big part of developing the other running backs, though.
Yeah, I mean, he's doubtful for this next game.
Yep.
Thankfully, Jalen Bradley, he's back in action. We'll talk about that a little bit more when we preview our upcoming game. But, yeah, just offense without Trey Bryant, not good about what I thought when I saw him limping off the field. Now we're going to our last and final category. This is what needs improvement. Always the one where we're going to be super negative. This is the negative category.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty obvious. Secondary, especially. I think we both had the same opinion before the radio show started that up.
We were talking about what we were going to pick because, we don't want the same opinion.
Yeah.
But I think we kind of have to. And Alex has a little bit more.
Yeah. I'll let you keep a little bit more of the secondary. Mine is going to be specifically the defensive line. Absolutely no pressure up front. Justin Hibbert, he could have read his textbooks back there sitting in the pocket. I could have read my textbooks, and I don't like to read. So, I mean, he had all day to throw. He could sit back there, read a book, find his receivers, and I think that's really what hurt our secondary, being in coverage so long.
Yeah, Justin Herbert, 25 for 33, 365 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception.
I don't know. I wasn't impressed by the defensive line. I haven't really been impressed by them yet this season. They haven't gotten to the quarterback much, like last week against Arkansas State. 5 new starting offensive linemen, and you couldn't get to the quarterback once?
What do we have? We have 1 sack, and it's not the defensive
no,
line.
It's not even,
Dedrick Young has 1 sack. And
off
I
a
think
blitz. And I just think if you're going to put so many young corners out there, Lamar Jackson, DiCaprio Bootle, Eric Lee, not a lot of experience in your secondary since Chris Jones is down and now Josh Kalu's hurt, doubtful for Northern Illinois. You need to be getting pressure. You need to put pressure on that quarterback.
I'm just going down the line. Freedom Akamuladin, he's not even on the stat sheet from what I could see. I don't think he had a single tackle.
No, and I know the 3-4 defense takes away a lot of different positions for your defensive line because you're going to be attacking in a new way. They're going to be taking on more blockers to help the linebackers get through the line and get up for the tackles. So your stats are going to look a little bit different from a year ago to begin with. But there's just absolutely no push up front.
I think I'm actually starting to agree with you, and I want to choose your most opinion because I was going to talk on the secondary. I was gonna rag on DiCaprio Bootle and Lamar Jackson. Let me get this straight. Lamar Jackson was not very good the other day.
Oh, not at all.
Neither was Eric Lee Jr. I thought Eric Lee was better than he was against Arkansas State. DiCaprio Bootle was not good. Aaron Williams was not good.
Watch it on DiCaprio. That's my boy, man.
Antonio Reed was not very good. It
just say our secondary wasn't good. They all need work.
They all need work. And I said this again last week against Arkansas State. I don't know what to do. But I agree with you. It's when the two pieces, the D-line, the pressure, and the secondary, they don't mix, it's hard for each of them to get the pressure. When the coverage can't cover anybody, it puts way more pressure on the defensive line to get a sack. But when the defensive line can't get a sack, the coverage just can't cover that many people for that long.
No, playing defensive back is such a tough position, and the longer you have to do it, the harder it gets. The longer the play goes, the more time the receivers have to run around and just find that open slot. The quarterback has more time to just start picking you apart. I know the secondary really, really needs to start improving because we have some tough teams coming in that are really going to start airing it out on us. And that trip to Penn State at the end of the season, I know that's a ways away, but Tracy McSorley is going to just tear us a new one.
We're going to get dunked on. We're going to get dunked on by, like, Clayton Thorson. And I don't even like Northwestern that much. Nathan Stanley's going to dunk on us, and I hate him as a quarterback. See, that's the problem with this is I am not impressed by any of the Big Ten West teams so far. Even Wisconsin, I think, is merely a good team. The problem is we look just as bad as all of them, if not worse.
Yeah, I was really hoping Nebraska could compete for a Big Ten West title or a Big Ten West spot this year. I think it's still in the cards. I think
I mean,
just needs to a
obviously, it's
lot
still
of
in the
yeah. I mean,
cards.
I haven't even started conference play yet, so definitely not worried about that yet. But still, a lot of improvement on the defensive side of the ball needs to be done. Much better pressure, just better run defense up front. Royce Freeman had 153 yards and 2 TDs in this one. He ran all over us. Herbert had some good carries. I just think overall, I mean, Diaco's system much better in the second half, but still giving up back-to-back games of over 500 yards or nearly 500 yards against Arkansas State and over 500 against Oregon, way too much.
Yep, it will be interesting to see. The Huskers are going to have to rebound like their next game, which will be this Saturday. What's the time, Alex?
11 o'clock kick.
11 o'clock, a good old morning game. I don't know what I'm going to be doing. I might be a parabolic mic operator. We'll see about that. I'm just going to hold that plastic bowl, but
That'd be pretty cool.
It'll be fun.
You'd be on the sidelines with me then.
Oh, I'd enjoy that. But Northern Illinois Huskies 1-1. They're first in the MAC West. That doesn't mean anything 2 games into this season, but Northern Illinois, there's not much to say. It's a team we should beat. We have to beat. We have to beat convincingly to really impress a lot of people. Their quarterback Daniel Santa Catarina is out. I think he hurt his elbow. I'm not unsure will be out. I know he'll be out 3 to 4 weeks.
Some arm injury for sure.
So that'll bring their backup in Ryan Graham, who last week went 15 for 38 for 190 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Not super impressive. They got a couple decent runners. Marcus Jones, who is over 2 games, ran for 100 yards and a couple touchdowns. There's not much to say about them. They're a team we need to beat and beat convincingly.
Definitely, I totally agree. But again, we need to watch their receivers because our secondary, very young, is struggling quite a bit. I'm not sure what Diaco has planned for this next game, what kind of adjustments will be made. Again, clearly some adjustments were made second half of Oregon. I know you think it was all Royce Freeman handoffs, but there was definitely some improvement. We forced a lot more punts, forced a couple turnovers in the second half, looked a lot better in the second half. So moving forward, they got to carry some of that second half of Oregon into this week.
Yes, it's a tune-up game, and I know I've said this about 2 or 3 times, but this is a game we need to win convincingly, not just for the fans, not just for my sake and yours, even though my damaged psyche would already like a nice win to soothe me, but for the team as well. They need the confidence. You could tell some of the players were a little shaken after the Oregon loss, and I was at practice a couple days ago, and I think they looked good. I think they looked pretty fine. I'm very, very. I think they're going to get them out of this system, and I think they're going to just beat up on a bad Northern Illinois team.
Well, let's hope so. It's been a while since we've really had a convincing win over a lower tier opponent. It often seems like Nebraska tries to, I don't know if they try to, but they just end up playing down to that level. I mean, you remember McNeese State a couple years ago where Amir Abdullah had to bail us out with the Heisman caliber play.
That was my freshman year of college. I was just like, what did I sign up for?
Yeah, I mean, last year we struggled a little bit. Wyoming, granted they had Josh Allen, but he threw 5 picks in that game, and it was still a field goal game at the end of it. So
it was a field goal game entering the fourth quarter. We ended up beating them by like 20 or 24 points.
Yeah, but it took a little while again to get that point. I guess that's your fourth quarter team we were talking about earlier.
Yes. So there's just sorry folks that are listening. There just really isn't much to say about the Huskies. There really isn't.
Yeah, I think again it's going to be just showing improvement on defense. That's what the fans really want to see. I mean, we're giving up 39 points a game. We're scoring 39 points a game, but you can't do that. It's not going to work out.
It's not going to win.
Way too many yards, giving up an average of over 531 yards over 2 games. That's ridiculous.
It's not going to win you any games versus good teams, and
especially not in the Big Ten.
No, especially not. And Northern Illinois is not a good team. What is your score prediction for this game, Alex?
Well, I think the offense, again, be fairly solid. Hopefully the defense starts making some improvements. Again, I don't think it's going to be lights out right away like everybody wants. I'm thinking probably 40-17, 40-20, somewhere like that. Nebraska win.
I said about 48-20, 24-28, something like that.
Okay, so about double on both sides with what we're thinking.
So that would be the Husker game for next week. Now we're going to talk about the other national games next weekend. After a refreshing week 1 and 2, we get in the drought of week 3. There is very few good games. Now, the biggest game, I'm not even going to ask you what game you're most excited for this coming week, because both of our answers are the same. It's Clemson versus Louisville, number 3 versus number 14.
Oh, Lamar Jackson gets his second shot. Lost it at the end last year, fourth quarter. Clemson kind of shuts him out. But very great game last year. I'm excited to see another one.
Too bad Louisville's not very good.
No, they're not. Without Lamar Jackson, I don't think they would be even close to the top 25.
No, without Lamar Jackson, they're probably a 3 or 4 win team. But hey, that's you don't play games without Lamar Jackson if you're Louisville. But even with Lamar Jackson, I mean, Lamar Jackson's phenomenal. I think he's tied for second for most. No, he is second for most games with 300 passing yards and 100 rushing yards. Only needs one more game to tie Johnny Manziel for number 1.
Oh, he'll get that easy.
Oh, at some point he'll get the record.
He's already counted for 8 touchdowns this season and 1,000 yards. So I don't know what more you can say about him. He's an absolute phenomenal athlete.
Dude's a monster.
He's going to terrorize that Clemson defense, actually push some buttons for them. I know Clemson's defense is very tough. We talked about it a little bit with Auburn last week, and the rest of Louisville's supporting cast, not the best. But Lamar Jackson, he at least covers 3 or 4 touchdowns for you every game, no matter what.
I'm actually going to disagree with you here. I think this game is going to be reminiscent of the LSU Louisville bowl game from last year.
Oh boy.
This is going to be Lamar Jackson is good, but the rest of Louisville is not. And Clemson, I think, is going to pull out this one, 20-7, 28-14, something like that. I'm not impressed with anybody on Louisville's team. I mean, Lamar Jackson is so impressive that he kind of sucks everybody else on the Cardinals roster into this black hole of, yeah, they're pretty good, but I really don't think Louisville's that good of a team without Lamar Jackson. Or even with Lamar Jackson, I don't think they're that good.
Yeah, I mean, he obviously raises their level of play. Being at home, though, Clemson's first true road game. Again, the very close game last year, you got to have a little bit of fire from last year. This one could be a little bit closer than you think.
I don't know. Clemson's favored by a 3.
I think it's probably maybe a little bit more than that. I'll give them 7, but I think this is a one-score game. Lamar Jackson keeps it close, man.
I don't doubt it. I'm going to trust in the Tigers D and take them by a few touchdowns.
Understandable.
Now, what, in your opinion, now this is something we were both kind of stumbling about post-game. The second most interesting game should be Florida State-Miami, but Hurricanes, a little bit more important than football, and so that one's not going to happen.
Yeah, definitely hope everybody down in Florida is staying safe, especially the teams and all their families.
Yeah, just everybody. It's been some real nasty weather this season, and, football is important, but people being safe is way more important than that. But regardless, that game's probably not happening, almost certainly not happening. So out of all these restless games, nothing much interesting. What is your second most interesting game?
I think one that's going to kind of sneak up on people and that could be very interesting to watch, Kentucky at South Carolina. Both teams have looked fairly good. Yeah, South Carolina's been very impressive. Not a whole lot of quality opponents. I mean, they took it to Missouri last week pretty well. They did well in their opener. So, I mean, again, very under-the-radar teams in my opinion. But Kentucky's got a solid ground game. Bentley for South Carolina.
Oh, I like Bentley. Listen, there is a whole cadre of quarterbacks in the SEC that I really like. The quarterback from Ole Miss, the quarterback from Mississippi State, Jake Bentley. There are so many young quarterbacks in the SEC that I really, really like.
Well, now that we graduated everybody that had been there for like 10 years with Dak Prescott and Chad Kelly, it's nice to see some new faces down in the SEC. Again, Bentley, we're talking about 402 yards so far this season in 2 games, 4 touchdowns, only 1 pick. He's got a great receiver in Samuel. He has 10 catches, 128 yards, and 2 touchdowns over the past couple games.
Debo.
Again, though, just watch out for that Kentucky run game. Snell, he's got 170 yards and touchdowns so far this season, but they haven't been using him heavily. Kentucky averages about 150 rushing and then a little over 200 passing, so solid offense. they're going to give South Carolina a close game.
I believe so too. It'll be an interesting one. It'll definitely show where both of these teams are, sort of an early SEC measuring stick. Missouri's not an SEC measuring stick. They're the SEC whipping boy. Take it, Tiger fans. We have the victory bell forever.
Yeah, we're not giving that victory bell out anytime soon.
But yes, both of these teams. Now, you made me pick a game.
That was interesting. What'd you think?
I can't believe I gave you second choice because this is just interesting. How about Texas USC?
Oh my gosh, the rematch.
USC is favored by 15. Alex, is Texas back?
No. I said that last week. Maryland dismantled them. Texas dismantled Maryland's defense as well. I want to put in that, but USC, there's no way that the hype, maybe Texas plays a decent game and gives them a little bit of run for money for a few quarters.
You don't trust Tom Herman against the road, against the Darnold?
Stop saying the Darnold, please. But no, I gotta see it from Tom Herman. It's not proven yet. You can't just come in and have a top 25 team just because you show up.
But they dismantled San Jose State by like 50 points.
You want to rephrase that?
They dismantled San Jose State by 52 points. Oh my God. Alex, Texas is back.
No, USC is far more talented, far just more prepared for this game. Texas is not ready to be on this big a stage again. They have a lot of work to do. They'll put up some points. They'll give the USC a run for their money. They have a decent run game with Texas. Replacing Dante Foreman's tough, but they have decent running backs. The biggest thing, USC gave up a lot of running yards to Bryce Love. They gave up some points to Stanford. Texas just doesn't have the offense to compete, much like the Stanford game.
What do you think about Texas's new quarterback, Ellinger, who replaced Shane Buechele?
Didn't get to see a lot of him last week, but I'm not against it. Buechele wasn't really doing it for me personally, so putting in a new guy I don't think can hurt by any means. You will just have to see, though. I'm not sold on Texas in any way, shape, or form yet.
I'm not. USC is going to beat them by a lot more than the 15 they're favored by. I was just kind of trolling.
Yeah, I just can't trust Texas right now, which is fine by me because it's kind of fun to see them down to the dumps.
Yes, it's
that's just the Husker in me, though.
Before we transition to a little bit more of a fun last 10 minutes, the NFL, is there any other games you look down at this list and you go, oh, that kind of interests me. I want to bring it up a little bit.
Let me check the schedule here. UCLA, not let's see, who'd they have again?
I'm trying to think.
They have Memphis on the road at Memphis. Not the easiest.
No,
I don't think that'll be like a big upset or by any means. Josh Rosen should be able to handle that. But early game on the road. That's going to be a 3-hour time difference for UCLA. Good one to watch. I don't know. You might want to just tune into that one every once in a while.
How about Tennessee, Florida?
Oh gosh, classic rivalry. Rocky Top. See if they can pull off the upset.
Florida's going to use its stable of mediocre quarterbacks to try and topple the Vols. Butch Jones, champion of life.
Oh, I have a tough time picking. I will say Florida has people back this time. They half their team is not suspended anymore, so they have they have a better chance in my opinion. I don't think Tennessee is still that great.
Yeah, Tennessee's got some decent, like John Kelly is pretty decent. Dormandy, the quarterback,
Dormandy looked pretty good in the opener against Georgia Tech, but again, I think Florida at home, Tennessee on the road. I don't like Butch Jones much as a coach. I don't think he has the best system and doesn't make a lot of good adjustments in games. So
they're champions of life, Alex, of life.
Sure, Nate, but I'm not buying it. Gators take that one.
Okay, yeah, no, I agree. So that was our college football games for the week. We got about 10 minutes left in our program, so I thought we'd have a little fun. We're not just college football fans, we're NFL fans, so I thought we would talk just a little bit about I thought we would talk just a little bit about the NFL season. It's week one kind of came in. There's a couple impressive games. There's a couple non-impressive games. There's a couple games I didn't want to watch. There are a couple games I did want to watch. Now we're going to transition to probably the one score that I think everybody is interested in. This is the New England and Kansas City score. Thursday night home opener on the road.
Absolutely fantastic game. Alex Smith played near flawless, picked apart that New England secondary. Kareem Hunt, I've been hyping him up his entire college career. Started at Purdue, transferred to Toledo, never fumbled once at Toledo. Great career as a college running back. He went to the NFL and he's a player to watch. A lot of people sleep on him because he's coming from the MAC, but I knew he'd be a fun one to watch. Gets the start since Kansas City running back, what's his name?
Spencer Ware.
Yeah, Spencer Ware. He's injured and likely won't be coming back anytime soon with the knee. So Kareem Hunt gets the start, absolutely dazzles in his first start as in the NFL.
Dude is legit.
A couple hundred yards, a couple receiving touchdowns, rushing touchdowns. He was torching the New England defense.
And I think it was interesting because the New England defense, they looked very, very suspect. Their linebackers, Tim Hightower went down, and that was just kind of it for the Patriots. They looked like they didn't have an answer to anybody on Kansas City's offense.
Yeah, they didn't have much beyond Hightower, and especially when he went down. Very, very tough night.
Yes, that was also the defense and the offense for the Patriots. Tom Brady, I hate Tom Brady's got his medical water, apparently. His veganness is going to win him some games. He's going to come back. He's not the end of him, or maybe it is. That's why you're just like, Tom Brady, is he getting old? And then he's going to come out and throw for 500 yards next week. And he's going to be like,
I don't think you could ever say Tom Brady is going to go away just after one game. Yeah, I mean, not the best performance, 16 of 36, 267, no touchdowns, no picks. But, I mean, you got to remember, he's lost a couple of his receivers to injuries, starting with a couple new ones. He's still got to find that connection with Brendan Cooks. So, I mean, the Patriots didn't look good, but you can never count them out when Tom Brady's at the helm. Kansas City, though, very impressive start to the season. I think they're a team to watch.
Yes, extremely a team to watch. It's unfortunate they're losing Eric Berry, but I think they can still...
That was a terrible injury. I saw that one live, and I could tell he was hopping a lot off, and it looked like his Achilles, and worst fears realized. Sadly, he'll be gone for the season with that torn Achilles.
Sad. But we got some other news. Just stop me. I'm going to read some scores. Just stop me if you think one is worth talking about for just a little bit.
All right.
Falcons 23, Bears 17. Ravens 20, Bengals 0, Eagles 30, Redskins 17, Jaguars 29, Texans 7.
That one was impressive. I didn't think. I know the Texans don't really have much of an offense. Trying to break into Deshaun Watson at quarterback, still a little bit of a new system there. But for their defense to give up 29 points to Jacksonville, Fournette had a great game.
The Bortles.
Bortles didn't do bad. I mean, he didn't do great.
No, Bortles is not a good quarterback. It's just kind of funny because this was his first game where he's looked semi-competent.
I think I put a lot of that on Fournette, though. 100 rushing yards. He had a few passes. I think one for a touchdown as well.
You think this is going to be the year of the rookie running back?
It very well could be. There's a lot of rookies that look very impressive in week one. We mentioned Kareem Hunt already, Leonard Fournette. We had Dalvin Cook look very good last night.
McCaffrey wasn't amazing, but I thought he had a lot of room for improvement.
Yeah. The Panthers offense didn't use him quite as much as I thought they would right away, which didn't really surprise me. They still stuck with Jonathan Stewart, 18 carries to him, so he got a lot of touches. But, watch the rookie running backs this year. They looked pretty good in the opening week. At least the big names did.
Yep, all right. Going to keep going with these scores. Steelers 21, Browns 18, Raiders 26, Titans 16.
I watched that game, and that was a lot of fun. Derek Carr is just a phenomenal game manager.
That sounds like an insult.
No, honestly not. He throws the ball really well, really picks his targets, doesn't force anything. He knows where his receivers need to be. He knows where to put the ball. And Tennessee's defense really had a tough time stopping him. 262 yards, 2 touchdowns. Marshawn Lynch, the comeback.
Oh, I love beast mode.
Hometown boy coming into the Raiders. Oh, I loved watching him back out there.
He looked good.
Yeah, I mean, 18 carries, 76 yards. He wanted the ball more. You could tell that he was asking coach to give him some more. He interrupted Jack Del Rio's press conference too. I mean, classic beast mode.
That's a classic Lynch move. What did he say?
I can't remember. I'd have to go back and watch, but I think it's great to have him back in NFL football again. I knew he wasn't done leaving Seattle.
I'm glad he's back. The NFL needed more Marshawn.
Yeah, you could never get too much Marshawn Lynch.
All right, keep up with the scores. Cardinals 23, Lions 35.
Great comeback by Matt Stafford yet again.
Carson Palmer's done. He's just not a good quarterback anymore. I don't really have much to say. We're kind of in the wrap-up phase, but
yeah, losing David Johnson's going to hurt them, though.
12 weeks, apparently, is what I heard.
Yep.
That's RIP to all the people who were drafting him in fantasy. I got the second pick, so I got Le'Veon Bell, who also didn't look good, but don't tell Alex that.
Yeah. Your entire team didn't look good, Nate.
I told you we're not getting into fantasy today. Jets 12, Bills 21. Did I hear? Is there a cricket infestation in this? Nothing. Nobody wants to talk about.
I'm not commenting on that one.
Rams 46, Colts 9. Colts the disaster zone.
Where is Andrew Luck?
Injured.
Where is he? Where is he coming back?
Finished.
That
was a really weird way to say finished, but
I mean, he's almost as much of a ghost as Vita Zigbo is for the Huskers.
He's hurt, man. Devino Zigbo.
He had surgery like 9 months ago, and nobody's heard a word or seen from him at all. I don't know. I want the Colts just to compete because I love watching Andrew Luck play. We got to see him come back at some time.
Yep. Seahawks, Packers. Packers looked impressive. Seahawks not as impressive, but still be pretty good.
Not much offense for them.
No. Panthers 23, 49ers 3. Cam will struggle a little bit. Giants 3, Cowboys 19. Ezekiel Elliott injured joke about punching women here.
No.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that, but
no. We'll see how that whole legal stuff comes out. The courts are very impressive. I think it's like an NFL tradition now to have some sort of legal court case going on for some player during the season as it progresses. I mean, we had the Adrian Peterson stuff. We have Tom Brady, Josh Gordon. I mean, there's always some sort of legal issue going on in the NFL now.
Yep, Saints 19, Vikings 29.
Great opener for Monday night. Vikings looked impressive. Dalvin Cook, 127 yards. Adam Thielen, wide receiver, 9 catches, 157. Bradford, 346 and 3 TDs. Interesting offense to watch.
I think the Vikings could be good. All depends on Bradford.
Yeah.
Then we had the myth, the legend, the Monday night, September 11th game, Chargers-Broncos. I'm a big Chargers fan. Really stunk. I sent Alex a bunch of angry texts at like midnight last night when they lost. But
that was a fun game to watch. Chargers, fantastic comeback. And the final, I mean, blocking that field goal at the end with the timeout. I thought they were going to go to overtime, but Broncos able to hold on. The big highlight, obviously, Sergio Dip from that game. Can't be beat. Oh, my goodness.
I want to run a Sergio Dip, but like I said, this is like our second time in the studio, so I don't have particular knowledge of the in chords and stuff, but I want to play Sergio Dip. I'll get him on and we can play him next week.
Oh my gosh, I hope he comes back for more Monday night. That was phenomenal.
I want more Sergio Dip. I don't even care that the Chargers lost. I just care about Sergio Dip.
If for anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about, go just Google Sergio Dip and enjoy. It'll make your day so much better.
I hate bagging on him, but it was really funny. Like I said, I really wish I had the audio in chord.
One last thing with the Broncos, though. Trevor Siemian looked very impressive.
I think the Chargers defense looked even more unimpressive.
I mean, that's probably fair, but for someone who's waited behind so many quarterbacks to get his shot, I didn't think he looked too bad. Managed the game well. Had a lot of good drives to finish up, but stop. Oh my gosh, you and your Sergio Dip.
From here, you watch him now on the screen.
Oh my goodness, stop it, Nate. Oh my gosh.
I can't. Sergio Dip, he's taking control.
All right, well, it's been a fun hour. Thanks for tuning in to the second string here on KRNU2, UNL's radio. And we had a lot of fun talking about Husker and college football.
I'm looking forward to
throwing
it.
into some NFL. Get ready to watch the game this weekend, 11 o'clock kick. Huskers take on Northern Illinois at home. Get out to the game if you can. And we got, like you said, kind of the dry week of college football. Not a lot of big games, but you never know. Any given Saturday, you can have some upsets.
Yep, and Sunday will be pretty fun with some NFL games, too. I am very excited for this.
Yeah, we'll see if you can
week.
get your fantasy team in order.
We'll see. We'll try. I'll try.
Well, thanks for listening, everybody. Be sure to tune into the Second String next week from 7 to 8 on Tuesday. Turn it back over to you, Nate.
Yes, this is me, Nate. I'm done. I'm out. I'm finished. We're done. Nate Milbach and Alex Fernando, you're listening to the Second String on KRNU2. Have a good one, everybody.